Session 9, Gender and Leadership. Introduction. Perhaps the most obvious difference in the current group environment is the difference of the sex. This study session examines the current issues about women and leadership. It highlights the stereotypic notions about women as leaders and the current state of women in leadership positions. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to highlight stereotypic notions about women and leadership. Stereotypic notions about women and leadership. There seems to be differences in the ways female and male leaders are evaluated. Bernard, Kandel, Young, Kobrynowicz, and Halpin, 1998. If a woman's style of leadership is stereotypically masculine in that she is autocratic, bossy, and task-oriented, she is evaluated more negatively than men who have the same style. This is especially true if men are doing the evaluating. In one study, researchers instructed male and female accomplices to assume leadership roles in groups of students attempting to solve a business problem. Butler and Jace, 1990. Both the male and the female leaders were assertive but cordial, taking charge of the group discussions. The other members of the group reacted to these assertive leaders. The results were discouraging. When a man took charge of the group and acted assertively, the group members reacted favorably. When a woman acted in the same fashion, the group members reacted much more negatively, especially the males. It appears that many men are uncomfortable with women who use the leadership techniques that men typically use. Women possess a tendency to be more subtle or convincing rather than shouting out demands. Studies have shown that women are more likely to construct their requests in the form of suggestions or leading questions rather than be more direct. The conflict is evident if one considers the fact that men possess the complete opposite tendency. Men are more masculine and are often more direct and to the point. These two contrasting qualities can cause lots of misunderstandings of all sorts. Women also do not hesitate to mix business with personal talk, where men are more anxious to get to the details of the business at hand. For women, this seems to be a double-edged sword. On the other hand, the personal talk brings down some barriers and lets each one get to know the other so everyone is comfortable. This works in their favor in situations where they are meeting a group or an individual for the first time. But on the other hand, after they become acquainted, they may have trouble separating their personal feelings and allowing them to enter into their business talk as well as their daily business activities. These types of preconceived notions are also present for every race and culture on the planet, and they differ from culture to culture for each other. It is very difficult, but even more important for today's leaders to put these preconceived notions to rest. One must remember that just because a person looks like Chinese, that it is possible that they have never even been to China. If this is true, they may be offended if someone was to treat them noticeably different or assume that they did not know how to do something. Even though a person has not told these thoughts, their actions can communicate these thoughts just as effectively. This is just one of the many types of subtle communication in which all people notice. It is imperative that people treat others based on merits rather than assumptions made on their looks or backgrounds. A multicultural environment is an asset only if each individual is treated equally and fair as the others. As team members witness their leader treating everyone with equality and fairness, they will be more inclined to emulate these actions with one another. Leadership and Innovation Among Teams, 1997. This will in turn help the group to value diversity and develop creative problem-solving skills. As conditions and situations change, leaders need to change their style of leadership. The challenge of the leader is not to follow one leadership style all the time, but to use the leadership style needed by his followers. Leaders should maintain the power or influence of their offices by being kind and knowledgeable. As more and more women enter the workforce, perhaps people are becoming less biased. But stereotypes change slowly, and it is still the case that women are expected to be more communal, open brackets, concerned with the welfare of others, warm, helpful, kind, affectionate, close brackets. And men are expected to be more agentic, assertive, controlling, dominant, independent, self-confident. Unfortunately, there are two forms of prejudice against women. First, if women behave in a way that is against societal norms, that is, in a communal fashion, they are often perceived as having less leadership potential. This is because people typically expect successful leaders to be more agentic than communal, especially in high-powered positions such as the head of a large corporation or a military leader. Second, once women become leaders, they are evaluated more negatively than men when they exhibit agentic leadership behavior. This is because these behaviors are contrary to how women are supposed to behave. Thus, there is a double bind for women. If they conform to societal expectations about how they ought to behave by being warm and communal, they are often perceived to have low leadership potential. If they succeed in attaining a leadership position and act in ways that leaders are expected to act, namely in agentic, forceful ways, they are often perceived negatively for not acting like a woman should. These two kinds of prejudice might help explain why there is shortage of women in leadership positions in the United States. Women make up 46% of the workforce, and 51% of all people who hold college degrees are women. Yet, less than or percent of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are women, and only 4% of the top managers of these companies are women. Fortunately, the prejudice towards women leaders appears to be lessening over time. Further, there is more evidence that some people are becoming more accepting of women who act in stereotypically male ways, and there is a growing recognition that effective leaders must often be able to act in stereotypical female or communal ways, as well as stereotypical male or agentic ways. Eagley and Carroll, 2002. Study session summary. From the foregoing, we could note that despite recent gains, working women and minorities are underrepresented in positions of leadership. Many women are qualified, but they encounter obstacles at home and at work where people hold stereotypes about women in leadership roles. End of study session 9. Thank you for listening.